My special guest is Colonel Weston. Of course, he needs no introduction. We see him on TV, and we have great respect for him and what he's done. And I just wish you were part of the White House team. We all thought you were going to be, because we thought you'd make a great addition. Did you have any desire to be part of that team?
Well, I think the most important thing is that I'm always willing, Phil, to serve this country and to serve my Lord. And I had two visits to Trump Tower back in December, the 5th and the 12th. And after the visit on the 12th, I never heard anything back. But, you know, I'll just continue to fight for liberty, freedom, and our American way of life and our values.
Well, we couldn't have a better person doing that for us. Let's talk just for a moment. You know, today I was listening to Pelosi and others, and they're talking about he's broke his promise, and I don't see any of that. I mean, I think he's done more in this 100-day period. I mean, God, the things he's done. What's your feeling when you hear this criticism coming in from the other side?
Well, it's not about breaking a promise. It's about how the Democrats will always try to, you know, eschew any type of responsibility or accountability for who they are and what they're doing. So, I mean, right now they're the ones that are preventing, you know, President Trump from fulfilling his campaign promises, and they just continue to not understand that they lost an election and that there are consequences. And those were the exact words that Barack Obama was talking about. And remember, it was 8 years ago when they pushed through a stimulus spending package that ended up just, you know, destroying our debt and our deficit, increasing that. They started to push through the Affordable Care Act, and we know where that landed. And they also started to push through the Dodd-Frank, and we see what that has done to our small community banks. And you know, at least we didn't get card check. That was another thing that they wanted to get through, which would have affected union elections, would have eliminated the secret ballot. But what I do see is that, you know, we talked about a lot of the things that, you know, President Trump has done. I just have to make the comparison. You know, you can get a lot of hits in baseball, but it's all about the runs that you get. You can have a lot of shots on goal, but it's all about, you know, getting that puck through into the net. So I think if they had to go back and do this with 2020, they probably would have sat down and developed more of a legislative agenda and a plan back in November and December, so they could have gotten a lot of this stuff enacted.
You know, you have such great experience. For us who are out here and don't know much about the military and what's really going on, just as a civilian, should my fear be more towards Korea, or is it North Korea, or should it be Iran, or are they really together? I mean, you can't separate those two.
No, you can't separate it, and that's the key thing, Phil, is that there has been collusion between North Korea and Iran previously that, you know, we have seen, and the difference is that one is developing the nuclear technology, the other is developing the delivery means. Remember, it was 2007 when the Israeli Air Force attacked a nuclear facility in Syria that very much so resembled the Yongbyon North Korean nuclear facility. And we knew that there were North Koreans that were there in Syria at the behest of Iran. And Iran, of course, is a supporter of Bashar al-Assad and what he's doing there in Syria.
And now that there's aircraft carriers off the coast, off the peninsula of Korea, don't you reach a point, I mean, as a military man, do you reach a point where, okay, you got the aircraft carriers, you've made your point. How do you get to, I guess my question is, when do you pull them back? When do you know you made your point, and do you overplay it? In other words, if you don't, once you park them there, what do you try to accomplish if you're not lobbing missiles at them, just parking there? What's the point? I mean, I understand the point, but I want to hear from you as you're a very experienced military guy. What is the point of it?
The point is that no diplomatic strategy is going to be successful unless you have a military course of action that supports it and backs it up. So in other words, as we are reaching out and requesting China to get engaged, we have to show that we are keeping this on the table and that we will work with South Korea, we will work with Japan and other allies to make sure that we have the right defense posture and security posture. You know, China should step in and, you know, the little short fat guy with the bear haircut, they should make him go away. Because China has a lot to lose, because if I were president, I would just simply say to Xi Jinping, Do you want to see the Korean Peninsula unified and allied to the United States and Japan and other Western powers, and then you become irrelevant? We just start to economically undermine you from thenceforth. So I think that is the type of pressure you should see being put. And the Chinese and some of these other communist, autocratic, dictatorial, or despotic type of regimes, they only understand you showing strength and might. They don't understand the compromise, the negotiation, the appeasement, the chatter. So I think that's one of the key things that we have to be able to show them.
Well, you bring up a great point, and it seems like for 8 years we just went the reverse of Reagan. How quickly does Trump get his respect with these guys? I mean, do you think we're at a point right now, Putin and the rest of them, they're looking at the president and saying, yeah, this guy, he's like Reagan. We're not going to push it. Do you think he's reached that point yet with him?
I don't. He has not reached that point of them understanding peace through strength. He has reached the point where they say, hey, this is not the same as the previous 8 years. Unpredictability, as President Trump likes to say, that's not a strategy. It's a tactic. It's a tool that you have to use, but you have to have a strategy going forward. And this is a chess game. It's not checkers. And I think right now he has, checked, people like Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping of China because of what he did in Syria and that response to the chemical weapons attack, what he did with the cave and tunnel systems in Afghanistan, which for the past 16 years, we have not sought to do that, and we know that those systems exist because we used to have the Mujahideen use them to go fight against the Soviet Union. And right now, you see Vladimir Putin testing Donald Trump in Afghanistan because we know that Putin now is supporting and supplying arms to the Taliban to fight against us. So it's kind of like turnaround is fair play because that's what we did in the 79 to 89 Soviet-Afghan war. So I think that you are seeing them think about ways that they can test President Trump, and it comes back to your point. If you're going to park, an aircraft carrier there and a nuclear-capable submarine, these guys are going to see, okay, this is a high-stakes game of chicken. How far are you willing to go?
What the hell was Obama trying to prove with the treaty? I mean, to us, we're novices at this, and when we look at it, it just looks like a mess. But what was his point, or didn't he have a point, or then he sent that $1 billion over in a plane at midnight? What is all that about?
Well, I think President Obama was looking to have some semblance of a foreign policy accomplishment. I mean, you remember going back to the beginning.
Sure.
I mean, he said that he would, negotiate with Iran with no preconditions. So I think that he really thought that he was showing himself as a foreign policy, expert, and that he did something that no one else had done. Well, there's a reason why no one else had done what he did when it comes to Iran, because it's freaking stupid. And now we're starting to see it completely unravel. We're finding out, as per the Politico article that came out yesterday, that, we gave up 14 or some odd, Iranian fugitives that we should have been getting a hold on that were taking American nuclear secrets. So I think that Barack Obama was so wanting to have a foreign policy success in the Middle East because, everything else had fallen apart. Now this is falling apart as well. There is nothing that you can go back in the 8 years of Barack Obama truly say it was a success. I mean, economically, militarily, our energy sector, nothing that you can find a success. Definitely not foreign policy.
Yeah, and talking about the economy just a little bit, and then because I know you're busy, I'll let you go. It seems to me, obviously the one thing we got to do is get we got to become oil independent. At this point, and we hear that. I've been hearing that since the 70s, years ago.
Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, God, I owned a series. My prior life, I owned a whole bunch of gasoline stations gas stations during that whole debacle. And I was a kid then, and I heard, okay, we're going to be oil independent, and here we are, 40 years later. And we're not, and we can have a weak dollar, and we can try to cut back the deficit, but it doesn't help because as soon as we go buy oil, right, whatever gains we make in our deficit, they go away. Where do you think the president is? You think he has a serious let's be independent. Do we finally have a president that's going to say, let's be oil independent? Yes, we love the environment, but we're not going to let it stop us.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we cannot, allow the Environmental Protection Agency to become the agency of no. We need to be producing, consuming, and exporting our own energy resources. And I think the executive order that will try to bring the coal industry back in West Virginia is a very good thing. He's supposed to sign an executive order to open up some more offshore drilling sites, which is something that President Obama, had closed off. So when we look at the Keystone XL pipeline being opened up, although this little back and forth with Canada right now might put a little bit of a kibosh on that for a minute. But, we should be sending natural gas to Europe so they don't have to rely on Vladimir Putin. So that's how we have to look at energy security as part of our economic security, which is also a very important part of your national security. We need to undermine OPEC. When you look at what has happened down in Venezuela, we need to make sure that, somehow we can not allow Iran, which has already got a footprint in Venezuela, to get their foothold in there and keep, Maduro propped up.
Right.
Because think about the incredible oil and natural gas reserves that they have in Venezuela. So again, here in our hemisphere, we need to have a new version of a North American OPEC that
right.
we can make sure that we can starve these other countries. Saudi Arabia, who is using those revenues to extend Wahhabist Islamic doctrine all over the world.
Yeah, and that's you've nailed it. Look, I really appreciate the time that you've given me, Colonel. And
my pleasure.
Listen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
so much, Phil. All the best.
And you're a delight to talk to, and thank you for your service. And we need more people like you. That's what we need.
You're very kind. Thank you.
Okay,
sir.
Thank you so much, Colonel.